Yesterday was a dark day for American justice as Donald J. Trump became the first U.S. president to be indicted and arraigned. But he walked into that courtroom like the badass he is because not only is the truth on his side, so are millions of Americans, and I expect millions more since yesterday. The silent majority is getting louder, and this is just the beginning. Donald J. Trump is the most famous, feared, and fierce person walking planet Earth, and that's evident by the crowds of people who flocked to Trump Tower and that Manhattan courthouse yesterday. Sure, there were some freaks and agitators there to try to bait and berate, but it's all a testament to Trump. Hell, he had more protesters protesting protesters than all the folks that have ever been to a Biden rally combined. And as for the legal side of this whole sham, Donald Trump faces 136 years in prison if convicted of the 34 BS counts against him, all linked to an alleged clerical error in an NDA settlement to a porn star in the amount of $130,000. Hell, with all the money we've sent over to Ukraine, $130K is what Zelensky over there wipes his nose with. Oh, and you'll be delighted to know that your tax dollars have been wasted on this farce. And if you're wondering if this whole thing could get any more corrupt, well, the judge presiding over this case, yeah, his daughter worked for the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris campaign and a slew of other Democrats, but I'm sure that's not a conflict of interest or anything. It all seems super above board, nothing to see there. Folks, I'm not going to try to make sense of this because it's senseless. All I can tell you is that Trump will prevail and he will overcome. He's done it before. He'll do it again and again and again. I'm not worried about Trump. What terrifies me and what should terrify you is how terrified the swamp is of Donald J. Trump. Joining me now with his take on all of this is host of the Officer Tatum Show and podcast, Brandon Tatum. Brandon, it's great to have you on such a slow news week.
I wish it was slow.
So I have to get your initial thoughts when you saw Trump walk into that courtroom, all the images, all the hoopla we saw from yesterday. What were you thinking, Brandon?
Well, first of all, it reinvigorated my support for Donald Trump because there was a point in time where I was a little sick of some of the stuff that he was doing. DeSantis was climbing up the charts on my radar. But then after they did this to Donald Trump, and me watch a man that I honestly believe had America best interests at heart, watch them essentially perp walk him, have him arrested, arraigned for the stupidest charges I've ever seen. It made me upset, it made me angry, and it made me more, I guess, have more zeal to support Trump in 2024. I mean, I want to support him more than I've ever wanted to support Trump in my entire life. So I really think that this is going to backfire on the Democrats, and it's going to create such an influx in support from his base.
So I agree with you on that point, but I want to get into this with you because I'm a little conflicted here. So I feel like the Democrats, the Manhattan DA, the machine that is the DNC, I feel like this is exactly what they wanted to happen. Not just Trump arraigned, arrested, charged, all this, but I feel like they want to fire up folks like you and me to support Donald Trump because I feel that they feel that he is easier to beat than someone like a Ron DeSantis. Now, whether that's true or not, we're going to wait and see. But I wonder, though, do you think that even with all of this and now your newfound invigorated spirit for Donald Trump, do you think that that means that he can win in 2024? Do you think that the independents feel like you and I do about Donald Trump?
Yeah, that's a good question, Tommy. I think about that every day. And I really do believe that, him being put through the ringer, even my dad was like, oh, this is, they doing all this stuff. They just don't want him to run for president. And I think that the Democrats are not trying to push him into presidency or push him into winning the primary. I think they want to eliminate any possibility of him actually running. I think they would rather face Ron DeSantis. Now, as miscalculated as that could be, I really believe they hate him so much, they don't want him to even have the opportunity to run for president. And I think it's going to backfire because this is what they're hoping will happen. They hope that he will get obviously indicted, and they hope that this will damage his reputation around the country. But what's going to happen is that as they rolled out this nothing burger, because people were expecting, at least myself, I was expecting that they were going to have something of substance where I would think, oh, man, he's done. This guy has no chance. They got evidence against him. He's definitely going to go to jail. If he don't get into a plea deal, it's going to ruin him forever. But when I saw the charges, I said, well, wait a minute. As a law enforcement officer, I know what it's like to pile up charges on somebody, right? You see one crime that was committed and you try to make those every instance of that crime to be a separate incident. And that's not the way you do business. That's not acting in good faith. Very difficult to defend. And so that made me feel like this is a witch hunt. This is even more of a witch hunt than I thought. And I think some of the people in the middle are looking at this like, well, I don't like Trump, but what they're doing is wrong. Or some people are like, oh, I thought they had him this time. Here we go again, just another BS charge that he's going to end up, escaping from.
I hope Americans are that smart, Brandon. I really do.
Me
But
too.
I also have to remember that an ABC News poll that just came out over the weekend after the indictment and everything that happened last Thursday, an ABC News poll came out saying that the majority of Americans supported the indictment against Trump, even knowing that it was BS. So I worry that some of those folks that still think Russia, 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 Ukraine, 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 impeachment, impeachment, I hope that they are smart enough to really look into this and know that this man didn't do anything and this is weaponized against him. I hope that. But I hoped that in 2020 as well. And we were mistaken. So I wonder how this is going to affect independents. But I also wonder, and you and I have talked about this, but I wonder if it's fair to use the indictment of Trump, the arraignment of Trump, to now throw DeSantis under the bus. I think that's a miscalculation on the part of the GOP.
Yeah, I think that it should always be a competition, right? I think that Ron DeSantis, if he has ambitions to run, he needs to run. He needs to compete. This needs to be a competitive field. It's just the emotional response to what I'm seeing them do to our country, because I see them doing it to Trump to a certain degree, right? They want to get him out of the way because it's political, but they want to ruin our country. They don't want Trump in for all the wrong reasons. They don't want him there because he's going to lower taxes, because he's going to tell the truth about what they're doing. He's going to expose the deep state. He's going to expose Republicans that are not doing what they're supposed to do. And he's a cog in the wheel to them, so I see what they're trying to do. And I feel like it's an attack against us. It's not just against Donald Trump, it's against us. But when it comes to Ron DeSantis, I think Ron DeSantis is doing a tremendous job in Florida. And I would like to see him run. I would like to see him put his name out there, because at the end of the day, we need to do what's best for America. It's not about tribalism. We need to do what's best for America. And although I'm inspired to support Trump because they're doing him so dirty, I'm also open to saying, hey, we still need to win an election. And if Donald Trump somehow they get him to be convicted of this crime and he have to do some jail time, DeSantis is the only hope that we have whatsoever. So I think DeSantis should get in a race. He should compete. And then we'll see at the end of the day if he isn't someone that can bring the country together. Because right now, we're just speculating. He hasn't even entered into the race at this point. And we don't know how the middle and some of the Democrats are going to respond to DeSantis. When he comes out, are they going to go after him too? Are they going to call him a pedophile? Are they going to? Are they going to say that that he raped somebody when he was, 6 years old or something? Like, what are they going to do to try to damage his character? Because they can't let a man like that be the president either.
Oh, I agree. I think that we always should expect that any America First conservative running for office is going to be taken down or torpedoed, or at least attempted by the left. I think that that's just common knowledge at this point. But what do you say to the people like me, quite frankly, who love Donald Trump, think he would be a fantastic president, would love if he was our president now, would love if he was our president in 2024. However, I'm worried he can win, one, and two, I'm a little sick of the drama. And it's not his fault. It's not his fault that there's drama that follows him everywhere. But as an American who's looking at this country and looking at how China is progressing on the world stage and our currency, how we have to be worried about the vulnerability there, I'm looking at it thinking, you know what? I really just don't want to deal with the drama anymore. And I wonder what you'd say to folks like me who are kind of experiencing some of that fatigue. And it's not Trump's fault, but it's the reality.
Yeah, I would say, Tommy, I feel you. Like I feel the same way to a certain degree as well. It's because, there's a difference between popularity and electability. And we experienced that right here in the state of Arizona. I think there was some nefarious things that had gone on, but I honestly believe that at the end of the day, it was that Kari Lake was incredibly popular. Her social media was on fire. People loved her. But deep down inside, some people didn't want the drama. They didn't want the trauma of Trump. They didn't want the drama of polarizing statements that were made. And I think that they shifted and ended up voting for Katie Hobbs just to settle the dust a little bit. And I'm worried that the average American is going to feel the same way about Trump. So I do have that perspective as well of like, I know he's popular. We love Trump. 2020, he was popular. He got the most vote increase than any other president in history in his reelection. But is everybody else in the country thinking like us? Are people so sick of the drama that they're willing to have a president that's not as equipped, not as good for this country, but to mitigate the drama? So I would say to somebody like you is that I understand where you're coming from, and we have to just let this thing unfold, because I don't know if DeSantis is going to even run. I mean, there's rumors that he's going to run. I'm hoping that he's willing to run if Trump gets arrested, or not gets arrested, but gets found is found guilty. So it's just a hard battle. And I know most Americans are thinking like this. I want to go back to this at one point. Are you saying that most Americans agree with him being indicted? Well, I think most Americans have what we call common sense. And I agree with him being indicted if it's legitimate, right? If Trump legitimately committed crimes, I don't care how much I like him. Brother, you messed up. Like, you shouldn't have been doing dirty work with dirty people, and you ended up reaping what you sowed. So no matter how much I like him, I think it's reasonable, if the man committed crimes, that he should be brought to justice, as well as other people. So what is middle America going to think about this? How fatigued are people in this country with politics? I do this every day. You as well. We do this stuff every day. Even when I'm off, I'm still thinking about politics. So I have a different perspective, but the average American may be so burnt out that they're willing to vote for anybody but a person who's embroiled in controversy.
That's my concern. And if this were any other election, we might be able to give it a shot. But I feel like we have to have such a solid race in 2024 against the Democrats. There is no room for error. That's my concern. But I want to move on to another point that people are making, and I don't think there's anything to it, but I'm interested in your perspective. Last night, Trump, of course, delivered his speech at Mar-a-Lago to a lot of supporters, but noticeably absent Melania and Ivanka. Now, of course, they're trying to dust up all these rumors that neither of those two women support him anymore. What is your take on that? Do you think that there's anything to that? You think Melania, maybe is a little ticked off at the whole situation? Maybe Ivanka, we know she's more on the liberal side. Do you think that there's some of that where they're moving away from their father and their husband as well?
I think there's a possibility, Tommy. I think there's a possibility, because it doesn't matter what I do. My wife is going to be next to me. I don't care where I'm at, what speech I'm giving, what I have done. A woman who I'm committed to and is committed to me, she's going to support me. And to be honest, I'm not going to be out there doing things that I know my wife don't approve of either. So when you see a former president and you see that his wife is not really standing by his side, that's a problem. Now, his kids are different. They're grown, man. They got their own husbands and stuff. So they can go off and do whatever they want to do. But to see your wife not standing lockstep with you every single step of the way, it at least gives off the wrong impression. Now, we all know that, at least I've heard that his daughter, they're sick of it. They don't want him to run again. They're sick of the drama. They're sick of the chaos. And I remember when Trump was the president, and him and Melania was awkward as I don't know what. Going, walking to the Air Force One, they're not even holding hands, just weird stuff. I mean, you're married, I'm married. It's no way in the world that a couple that's happy, that's supportive of one another would be behaving like this. Now, I don't know them, so I don't want to read too far between the lines, but this could be a sign that people that like Trump should be looking at. Like, is he doing things that are counter to what people in his circle are saying that you should not do? Maybe you should not have had a speech at Mar-a-Lago. Maybe you shouldn't run in 2024. Maybe you shouldn't get yourself down this rabbit hole, because they're going to indict you and you do 130 years in prison. It's for what? To win the election? I mean, there's other qualified people. You did your job. You stood up for this country. We love you for that. But at some point, you got to think of, in my personal opinion, that he needs to see the world bigger than just himself and his reputation.
I think that you kind of categorize not only what Melania might be feeling, but what a lot of Trump supporters are also feeling. We're just going to have to wait and see. Hey, listen, I want a competitive primary, right? I want to have the best candidate, and you and I have both said it. If Trump is our nominee, we will go harder than hard. If Ron DeSantis is our nominee, we will go harder than hard. I think it's going to be between one of those two. Nobody else excites me. Nobody else, I think, has a shot. So one of those men should be our nominee, and you and I will fight like hell to make sure that they get in that White House, and Gavin Newsom and Joe Biden or Kamala, the rest of them, take a seat. So at least we can agree on that, and we'll just have to wait and see. Brandon, I always appreciate your perspective, and I'll talk to you soon.